Hello everyone, good afternoon. I am Vishnu Pillai. I am an investment analyst, and today we'll be going over one of our portfolio companies, Let's Transport. They are into B2B logistics, and we have with us Head of New Initiatives from Let's Transport, Mr. Vishen Bihari Mukherjee. So this webinar is basically to educate everyone here to go deep dive into what Let's Transport does and how they started and what the new initiatives they are into and a little bit on the financials. So Bishan, I'll just give a brief intro about you. So like Bishan here, he's the head of new initiatives for Let's Transport and he's alumni of IIM and he holds experience coming from HDFC, IBM, and also working in OYO and being an entrepreneur himself. So yeah, over to you, Bishan. So like we can start over with if you can, just tell how the initiation of Let's Transport was and how the journey has been, so that our investors here can understand more about the company.
Sure. Thank you, Vishnu. Am I audible?
Yes, you.
Perfect. So let me start. Will I be able to share my screen? Yeah, perfect. Are you guys able to see this? Are you guys able to see this, Vishnu?
Yeah, Bishan.
Perfect. So I will get into a brief background about myself. As Vishnu mentioned, I'm an AMCAL pass out 2010-12. Post that did a couple of years of consulting. I'd been running a venture successfully for 4-5 odd years. Helped OYO set up its Northeast business. And then I've been with Let's Transport for the last 5 years. I take care of new initiatives, everything debt, and I help with the funders with the founders. That's broadly my history over time. About Let's Transport, it started off on a simple presumption. The founders are from IITs and they were working in multiple FMCG companies, and they figured out the supply chain at the last mile end of the logistics setup could have been better, right? Making it more cost efficient for the for the companies, making it more beneficial for the truckers, and that was a pain point that they wanted to solve, right? What have we achieved over the last 7-8 years? We have become the largest regional freight network in the country. We work with most of the known names for in the world of commerce in India. We work with the likes of Amazon, the Cokes, the Nestle's, the Pidilites, the Dabas of the world, right? We have been able to build it out over the last 7-8 years into a setup which comprises of 28, 29 cities and having more than 2 lakh truckers on our platform. We currently work with about 200 plus enterprises. We work with more than 2 lakh truckers who are on my platform. We give them an alternative source of income, which essentially enhances their ability to earn more through the platform. The fundamentals of the business is pretty simple. Think of Uber for trucks, but then think of Uber for trucks on the B2B domain. Instead of me or Vishnu going and booking an Uber, here we have enterprise clients who come on my platform to generate demand, and I have the truckers on the other side who will take up this demand, solve for the supply chain needs, and in turn earn more than what they were earning on a daily basis or a monthly basis. We operate on the supply side on 2 kinds of models, which is what we call schedule and which is what we call on demand, and I will come into the complexity of them later on. But broadly, schedule is something where a trucker would want to place its vehicle at a particular location for 20, 25, 30 days in a month, whereas on demand is more like a spot thing, right? If someone needs a trip now, can the trucker or the client get a trip on the spot, on the requirement? The type of trucks that we operate with anything that is under 1,000 kgs, which is a Tata Ace or a Supro or a Bolero kind of a setup, to about 9 odd tons, right? We do not typically operate on the larger weight of the vehicle categories, but we operate on the smaller segment of the trucks, which would be about 35 to 40% of the entire supply chain industry in the country. Pushkar and Pratik were the ones who started off the company. Pushkar is the CEO, Pratik is the chief operating officers. Both come from IIT Kharagpur. Pratik is a Wharton grad as well. Other than that, we are backed by marquee investors like Bertelsmann, who is one of the largest investors based out of Europe. We are blessed to have investors like Mitsubishi, GMO, and Repride, who come from Japan, giving us a lot of strength in our cap table in terms of our growth and ability to service all our clients. What we do, right? Basically, if we look at this graph or chart, Indian logistics and supply chain enterprise is being broken into a 2x4 matrix, right? On one side, you will have SMEs, you have B2C players, and on the other side, you will have enterprises. Whereas on the Y coordinate, you will have a segment where biking is prevalent. Then you will have the small trucks, which is on from 0 kgs to about 3,000 kgs of movement. Then we'll have the mid-segment trucks, which will be a 3,000 kg to about 6.5, 7,000 kg movement. And then you will have trucks which operate from about 6,000, 7,000 kgs to upwards of 15, 16,000 kgs per shipment movement, right? Where do we operate? Historically, this operated on a segment wherein, is my cursor visible, Vishnu? Vishnu, is my cursor visible?
Yeah, we can hear you, Vishnu.
No, is my cursor visible?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So historically, what used to happen was you had your legacy players who would operate in these segments. You had the biking segment did not exist about 10 years back. You had fragmented players who operated a little bit on this segment and a little bit on the 3 to 14 ton segment, right? What happened was, why does a legacy player want to operate on 6 to 14 truck segment, but not on the smaller segment? That was the basic hypothesis that we wanted to solve. In enterprise trucking logistics, the core competency that any company develops is its ability to, one, get trucks on the platform, do the shipping, and also be able to manage those trucking relationships, right? So how legacy companies used to look at it is, they would have one telecaller or person sitting out of their office who would manage 10 drivers, which in turn means 10 trucks, right? Without a high ticket size of product, say they're moving from Delhi to Bangalore, the ticket price for the shipment is say 10,000, 60,000 rupees, and they would make around 5 to 8% on it. So they were essentially making 3 to 5,000 rupees per trade. So a person sitting at the background would be able to manage 10 such truckers, essentially meaning that person would be able to generate a gross profit of about 3 to 5,000 per truck per trip into 10 truckers, which is about 50 odd thousand. These trips used to average on an average take 3 days. So you get 10 such trips a month. So that person is generating about 5 odd lakhs of some surplus for the company, right? Now the cost of that person becomes around 50 to 80,000. And the company has another 3.5, 4 lakhs to generate surplus to take care of its financials, to take care of its people, sales, so on and so forth, making it a viable business. The moment we are looking at a smaller truck segment, what happens is the trip size, which was about 60,000, now all of a sudden shrinks to 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 kind of a sudden. If the same person manages 10 such trucks a day, on 2,000 trucks, the total GMV comes to about 20,000. Even if you make 10,000 or 10% on it, you are making about 2,000 bucks a day. On 30 days, you're making, that person is able to generate 60,000 worth of surplus. On the same cost profile of 50, 60,000, now the business becomes unviable. Because post that person's cost, you are left with 10, 15 odd thousand. And that is why this segment was predominantly fragmented. You had micro entrepreneurs, you had driver come owners, you had people who were operating 3, 4 trucks. The problem it creates is at the enterprise level, a Nestle, a Coke, or an Amazon has to deal with n number of people instead of dealing with a structured setup. On the other side, people who wanted to grow were unable to, because they were not able to foresee the problem statements that were coming in terms of managing the vehicles, in terms of there's any downtime somewhere, in terms of managing drivers, so on and so forth. What happens is the moment technology comes in, the cost of that operation, when it moves from a person to the app application of the technology, the cost moves from, say, 1,000 rupees a day to 10 rupees a day. That's the cost of operating technology. Now, all of a sudden, you do not need the person to operate at the back if you have some sort of scale. And that is where people like us come in. We ensure that the cost of operating in the supply chain logistics domain is so low that the transporters are able to make higher margin, whereas the enterprises are able to get their costs lower, right? And our affordability is on the affordability of operating cost of my application, making it a win-win across the domain. And that is where, from this legacy players, you see people like us coming and operating on the small truck segment, on the medium truck segment, and in certain specific cases, on the large truck segments as well. Similarly, you will have people like Porter coming in and disrupting the same way on the B2C, B2SME space. You will have the bikers who have come in through shadow taxis, the Rapidos, the deliveries of the world, disrupting at the same speed and the same space as well. What it does is now you can create a aggregated supply chain logistics play on a regional trucking segment across the domain and across the country, which also helps us cross-sell and upsell to our enterprises by saying, I operate out of Bombay, I operate out of Pune. Can I help Amazon operate the lanes between Bombay and as well? The similar test case plays out between Hyderabad, Bangalore, and Chennai as well, right? It gives us an opportunity to upsell, cross-sell. It gives enterprise a consolidated view of the business that they're doing, and it gives the trucker a better cost lever in terms of their operational leverages. That's broadly the primary hypothesis we operated with. The second hypothesis that I wanted to also show is, if you look at this and if you look at our pattern, right? We would order on an Amazon on a Saturday and a Sunday. Amazon would optimally deliver the products on a Monday and a Tuesday. Whereas we will go to a local Kirana store and we'll ask for a Colgate toothpaste on a Sunday or a Saturday. And if you do not have a Colgate toothpaste, the Kirana store would give you a close-up, right? Or a Pepsodent. What happens is your buying pattern defines the trucking needs at the end mile. So for the Kirana store operator, he or she needs the Colgate toothpaste on a Friday or a Saturday for him or her to be able to sell on a Saturday or a Sunday, right? Whereas for an Amazon, because Vishnu and Vishan are ordering on a Saturday or a Sunday, Amazon needs to deliver on a Monday or a Tuesday. What it does, and this slide takes care of it, is something called fixed vehicle, where you see that there's this straight line where you would need X number of trucks, be it FMCG, be it e-commerce, be it CPG, so on and so forth. But and FMCG would need more trucks on a Saturday or a Sunday, and e-commerce would need more trucks on a Monday or a Tuesday. By being able to have that depth and penetration in the number of trucks, we are able to map out sales cycles as well. So not only there are fixed vehicles who would operate from Sunday to Monday, now we can also enable truckers to earn more by stating that you work with an FMCG player on a Saturday, Sunday, you work with e-commerce players on a Monday, Tuesday, you work with the hardware players, which is the cements, the paints of the world, which gets replenished on a weekday, on a Wednesday, Thursday, essentially making it a better solutioning for both the client and the trucker. How, you may ask? For the client, either they would have to keep all the fixed vehicles at this higher level, or they would lose out on the sales piece, right? Or they will have to pay a supreme premium to get more vehicles on a Saturday, Sunday. But by Let's Transport being able to deploy trucks on Saturday, Sunday, excess trucks, Delta X trucks on a Saturday, Sunday at FMCG, on a Monday, Tuesday at e-commerce, on a Wednesday, Thursday on hardware, we are essentially establishing a utilization of the trucks, making the cost of procurement lower for us, making the earnings higher for the trucker, and then in turn, the cost of procurement lower for the client in concern, thus making it a win-win scenario. So this is the second problem statement we solve. In a broad-based setup, what we realized over the last 10, 15, 20 years is we had the legacy players who would solve delivery of products over a 5-10 day horizon. So people would keep more inventory, be it the distributor, be it the retailer, be it the warehousing CNF people. But as e-commerce has penetrated, as the requirement has started coming in, the distribution is moving from a 5-10 day delta movement to a 3 day delta movement, which was happening over 2010s, over 2015s, to a next day delivery system. Though it might be more costly to do a next day delivery, it saves companies a lot of their inventory costs. They do not need to carry now 10 days of inventory, 5 days of inventory, 15 days of inventory to manage the sales. What it frees up in terms of inventory costs, uh, the supply chain cost is only marginal fraction to that. In turn, making it more lucrative for the supply chain logistics and the transport players to work in this mode, to work in a hub and spoke model, which helps generate the entire value chain. In terms of business scale and scope, logistics, the logistics market is expected to be an $650 billion market over the next 4 to 5 years, where we aim at targeting 10 billion of that piece. We are currently, as on 23, the last data that we have received, it's a $1 billion market expected to grow to about a $10 billion market. We are part of that $1 billion market. We do all tech companies put together do about 25% of it. We expect that piece of the pie to be about 50-55%. So we expect the $1 billion market to go to about $10 billion. We expect the pie for tech-enabled players to go up from 25% to 50-55%, essentially stating that the market will rise from a $250 million market for tech players like us and Porter and Shadowfax and so on and so forth to about 5.5 billion for in the next 4 to 5 years. That's the opportunity and scale that we are targeting over this space. In terms of how we operate, our business model is very simple. If you look at logistics operates in three domains. You will have a factory warehouse. Say there's phones manufactured in Gujarat. You will have a factory which takes care of those Apple phones, those Samsung phones in that factory. Then you will have line haul or long haul trucking, which will take it from Gujarat to Bangalore, Delhi's, Bombay's, Calcutta's of the world. And from there, you will deposit those product on a city warehouse. From that warehouse, you will go to a distributor and to an end retailer. Now, with the e-commerce players coming in, what you do is you go from distributors and retailers direct to end consumers. This line haul trucking is where legacy players used to play, whereas from city warehouse to distributors, or from city warehouse to end customers, or from distributors to end customer, is where we are trying to find our niche. It was a completely fragmented market. Most of the people operating here were driver cum owners, were small scale entrepreneurs. We want to bring them under one umbrella, solve for their financial problems, solve for their GST problems, solve for their pricing problems, solve for their demand problems, and in turn create a livelihood structure for them and people under them. Right? That's broadly what we do. Average revenue per trip would be about $20 which is about 1,500, 1,600 that we operate out of. We make about 10 to 15% of that. We make about $3, and that is where the technology comes into play. Operating at $3, it is only feasible when you operate through technology. When you operate through people, you would probably generate a gross margin of about $30, as mentioned, helping 10, 15 truckers, and thus making it not feasible. Our correlation to this is, think of banking, think of legacy players like the SBIs and the HDFC Bank. They would give you, if you wanted a loan, they would want a minimum ticket size, right? They would want a 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 5 lakh ticket size, right? Then came your small SFBs and small scale bank who would give a smaller ticket size. What they would do, they will not have so many branches. So instead, they would do some detailed form of branching, or their people would come to your house to give you a loan, so on and so forth. And then finally comes the money view, the loan taps of the world, who will completely digital, but gives a smaller ticket size loan. We are trying to operate from that lens, where we are trying to operate on a smaller ticket size. We want to make the entire transaction seamless through technology, and in turn helping people solve for their revenue and their cost needs.
Right, Bishan, just wanted to take it forward from here.
Yeah.
Could you, so you've given a very brief and good explanation about the whole business model and what Let's Transport does. The investors would like to know more about the company in the sense of its financials. So if you could walk us through how the revenue has been, and how the profitability and path to profitability for Let's Transport has been over the years. That'll give them a good insight about the company's financial metrics.
Yeah. On the financial side, I will keep it small and crisp. When I joined the company back then, we were doing about 10 odd crores of revenue a month. Now I do close to 40, 45 crores of revenue a month. We would close our balance sheet at around, our P&L at around 450, 500 crores of revenue for this financial year. As we speak, we are on the path to EBITDA profitability. We are very close to EBITDA profitability. This month or the next month, we'll achieve our EBITDA profitability. We would still have some costs under EBITDA profitability, but we hope and we think, and we are pretty confident on it, that our PAT profitability will achieve by the end of the year. Maybe not for the financial year, but by end of the year, we would see some PAT profitability, PBT coming in as well. This business, because it's a simple business of leverage of technology, the more revenue you generate, you do not need to put in more people. The first hurdle was to reach the EBITDA profitability. The moment we have reached EBITDA profitability, any transitional revenue that we grow of about 10, 15 crores will directly impact our bottom line, making us PAT profitable. So we hope, and we are pretty certain on it, that we will achieve our PBT by end of March 25 or early first quarter of first quarter of FY26, which is from April to June. We'll hit those numbers. We are well capitalized in terms of the capital that we have. We have just raised about 120 odd crores from our marquee investors. So we are well capitalized in terms of the kind of runway that we carry. And what will happen in terms in the future is post PBT profitability. It takes us into a virtuous loop of more business, meaning more gross margins, meaning more bottom line, right? And essentially increasing our business and business value prop. If you want exact numbers, I would sit at around 15-20 lakhs of EBITDA loss for the month of June. We will break even in July. For August, I will be EBITDA profitable. I have another couple of crores of cost, which is my fundraise cost, which is my interest cost, so on and so forth, which would be amortized over time, and we would break even by December, Jan. We start breaking even at a PBT level by December, Jan, worst case scenario, March. So that is where my business looks like. We expect to scale the revenue from 40 odd crores to about 50, 52 odd crores. And that 8 odd crores generates a surplus of about a crore and a half of GP, which means by GP, I mean gross profit, which essentially entails the bottom line to growing by a crore and a half. And we will have another surplus amount coming in from the interest that we earn from the fund that we have raised. So that's why we will probably achieve break even between December to March of 2025.
All right. And Bishan, could you also tell me a little bit on your funding scenario? Because last time you had raised funding was in the month of April, led by
yeah. So we just raised.
Are there any more funding, fundraisers that you planned in the near future? Or are you planning on going public? If you could just tell our investors a little bit on that front, and what the funding had been used for and what the plans are, that'll give us a good picture about how Let's Transport is transitioning ahead.
Yeah. As I just mentioned, we have raised about 120 crores. About 110 odd crores is already in my bank account. Another $1 million, which is about 8 odd crores, is yet to come, which will come in the next 10-15 days. That's more of procedural requirements than the money coming into the bank. That should close the 120 crores. We are in the market. We might raise a little bit more, but we strongly believe with the capital that we have raised and the adequacy that we have in our current cap table and our balance sheet, we don't need capital till profitability. But no one says no to capital, right? So we will probably look at the next 6-9 months and then think it through, because as our profitability comes into effect, there are certain valuation benefits that you get, there are certain cash flow benefits that you get. so on and so forth. There are certain benefits of the cost of borrowing that comes into effect without diluting before, right? So we will after this we will probably raise after 8 to 9 months, and then the next journey would be to go for an IPO, which is probably anywhere from a year and a half to about 2 years out.
Okay, that's wonderful. Bishal, moving ahead from the financials and funding. So
Mm-hmm.
technology and innovation being the backbone of
Mm-hmm.
Let's Transport, and you
Mm-hmm.
being the head of new initiatives, wanted to
Mm-hmm.
understand how is the what's the future looking like for Let's Transport, considering you're also moving into IPO in the near future. So what are the new things that you're getting into? I've read about you guys moving into electrical vehicles as well, and other any other sustainable aspects that you're looking into, or new technologies that you want to adopt into, the Let's Transport way of business?
Sure. So there's two way again. There's two ways of looking at it, right? One is, as you rightly mentioned, is in the EV space, which is technology as a physical product, right?
Mhm.
Which is battery technology, the types of vehicles that you want, so on and so forth. Then you have technology as a software product as well.
Right.
One side of the understanding is, do we get into EVs? And of course, we are into EVs. Does it make the cost of operations smaller, the lower? Does it help my clients? Does it help my truckers? So on and so forth. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is they're building a lot of technology in terms of finding the right trucker, finding the right matrix, helping clients solve for the right problem statements. So we also do a lot of route optimization. We also do a lot of number of trucks that a client might need solving for their supply chain costs, where a lot of effort and technology goes in as well. So on one side, yes, we do look into things like solutioning of EV vehicles, but we look at route optimization. We look at solutioning in terms of supply chain, solutioning in terms of how their warehouses what linkages are happening, solutioning in terms of what kind of trucker is a right fit for a client, right? What kind of persona is a right fit for a client, figuring that out, ensuring the cost of operations comes down from that aspect as well. So in both these cases, we are diving deep. We also try to solve for things like where we do a seamless transition into ancillary products. So a trucker who is in need of fuel doesn't need to carry money now, right? They can use a wallet system. They can go to any bunk that they want. A simple tap of a button, an OTP on the platform will help them recharge for their fuel as well, making their transition seamless as well. Think of, if I'm a truck owner, I have 4 trucks. I'm up all night because this truck might need a fuel, this truck might need some some castrol coolant, so on and so forth, right? Instead, by embedding technology in those aspects as well, you are helping solve for the truckers' lives as well. So these are the three main pillars of how we look at technology. One is hard technology, physical product technology, which is on the EV space. One is solutioning with the client to help solve for their demand, their needs, and the third is solutioning for my trucker partners, what they're solving for their life and making their life simpler, making their costs lower.
All right. So now moving on. So every thriving business or growing business,
Mm-hmm.
has risks and challenges. And with the
Mm-hmm.
innovation and technology coming into the picture,
Mm-hmm.
so what are the risks and challenges you see that are may come as an obstacle for Let's Transport, and what are the plans of how you tackle these problems?
Fair question. Fair question. On one side of the story, in an ideal world, if everything is aggregated to perfection, right, you do not need people like us, right? So the more we understand the domain, the more aggregation is also happening at the client end, and that is why we're innovating into solutioning for clients rather than being a service provider for the client.
Okay.
That's one. Second, even when we're talking about EV vehicles, you will have N number of companies, you will have Y number of battery systems. You really don't know the winners, right? So you will have to figure out who is your winner. If you and it's an old anecdote. If you look at before Ford, there were 150 companies in US who were trying to build a car, right? During the time of Henry Ford. Now there are four, right? So the consolidation had happened over a 15, 20, 25-year period, right? What the EV industry is going through the same as well, right? Over the next 10, 15 years, you will figure out who are the viable EV players in the market, right? So what it does is it also puts a lot of pressure on us to figure out the right people, to figure out the right kind of product, to figure out the right kind of asset which will help not only grow, which will help not only us to grow, but my trucking partner to grow as well, because he or she is putting in their life savings into buying a truck and then making it cost effective for my client. So these are two, three pieces where we see a lot of innovation and disruption happening, but we want to be part of that journey as well.
All right. So Bishan, before we, close out and, move on to the questions
Mhm.
from the audience, I just wanted
Mhm.
to get, your input on this. So one is, before we close out, so one wanted to understand how your journey with TAP has been. How has TAP helped in the cash flow financing for Let's Transport? And that was
Mhm.
one thing. And post that, probably after your answer, I can get back.
My 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 relationship with TAP has been great. My journey with how TAP understands the products that are required, and to solve for it, than to get run-of-the-mill products that are available in the market. That understanding and that thought process is very strong at TAP, which helps us also grow our business as well. We have been able to lean on TAP to help grow our business, find financial solutioning not only for ourselves, for our trucking partners as well. And yeah, it gives us a lot of comfort when partners like TAP come in and gives us in terms of understanding and in terms of we growing as well. We know when we know we have a backer like TAP. So that's on TAP. They have been they have been nothing but short of great friends, helped us out whenever we have leaned on them. They have been You guys have been able to solve for complex supply chain problems, supply chain financing problems, which are not tackled by most of the players in the market today in today's journey.
Alright. Thank you, Bishan. So before we close out and ask, I've requested for questions, open for questions now. But
Mhm.
just wanted to understand, since the logistics industry is already a big market right now, and it's
Mhm.
ever going to grow now because of
Mhm.
the influx of e-commerce right now and a lot of
Mhm.
brands coming in. So
Mhm.
wanted to understand how is Let's Transport planning to grow with it, and what percentage of the share are you currently holding and are looking to hold probably 5-10 years down the line.
So as I had mentioned, right, this industry is expected to grow 10x over the next 4 or 5 years, right? And the wallet share of structured players is up 25% to about 50-55%. What we strategically believe is the deep partnerships that we have with our clients, right? We not only solve for a trucking need or placing a vehicle at a point A to be delivered to point B, we look at holistically, we look at the problems that statements that they are looking to solve. We look at number of vehicles they would need. We give them an option or plethora of options in terms of variability in terms of the supply chain value system. Instead of getting n number of trucks on a daily basis, can they get n minus delta n for x number of days, and for the y number of days they get n plus delta n? Can I get them different types of assets, right? From a 2-ton truck to a 20-ton truck. Can I get them EV vehicles? Can I help them solve for their DADCDs, which is when Amazon goes to your house to deliver products, or say Big Basket goes to your house to deliver for your product. This Big Basket will have a list of items, right? And they will tell, I've given you milk, I've given you this and that. Can I help with those? And ingrained partner to their entire supply chain last mile need than only placing trucks, right? And that is where we see a lot of wallet share that we own currently. I will not get into specifics, but for my top clients, I have a lot of depth in terms of the wallet share I carry. Kumar sir is asking, is your business model similar to Dunzo? A little bit yes and no, right? Dunzo, Kumar sir, you order on Dunzo and you deliver it to somewhere else, or you order from Dunzo store. For me, I work with Amazon. Amazon needs a number of vehicles, for which Amazon might ship from warehouse one to warehouse two, or Amazon might ship from Amazon warehouse to you, right? I am that intermediary. I do not operate on the B2C lens. I am solely a B2B player.
All right. So if there's any other questions, we can take it from the audience. We'll just wait for a couple of minutes, Vishen. But in the meantime, thank you so much for walking us through the whole company, about the company, the business model, and the financials. I think the investors have a pretty good knowledge coming from you directly, about what the company does and the questions that they've asked. So that will give them more clarity about the company. In the
Sure.
meantime, we'll just wait for a couple of minutes. But thank you,
Sure.
Bishan. Thank you for your time.
No worries.
I'll just wait for a couple of minutes here. All right, I think the talk was, sufficient enough. I think they've understood the model well. Thank you, Bishan, and thank you everyone for joining us in this webinar to understand about Let's Transport in detail. Okay, just 1 second. I think Kiran Kumar has um, request, you gave another question. Investing through TAP is likely investing in Let's Transport. How do you treat the investors' money?
There are two ways to it. To tap, what we take is debt, right, or loan for looking at our business. We take that capital very seriously. We are a capital intensive business, to be honest with you. So we adhere to strict timelines, strict guidelines, usage of capital, so on and so forth. On the other side, I also have equity investors, and one of the major reasons you will not see me, and don't quote me anywhere, you will not see me marketing and branding and doing all that shebang, is because we understand how important capital is, right? And that is why we have built our business frugally. We have built it over 8, 10 years. We are building towards profitability. You do not see us doing a lot of branding and marketing and advertising. You will not see us doing a lot of things that might generate a lot of pull in terms of brand, but does not generate pull in terms of my business, because my B2B business is not dependent on branding and advertising. I have core sales people on my team who go out day in and day out and talk to Amazons of the world and Coca-Colas of the world. Similarly, I have core operating guys on my team, on our team, who go out and talk to truckers. For both these events, we do not need a lot of branding to be done, right? And that is why we build a business very frugally. We take money when we only need it. We raise capital only when we need it. Other than that, we never raise capital. We are not on quote unquote the sexiest guy on the block. We are not even the worst players, right? We understand business as is, and we want to operate that way.
All right, perfect. I hope that answers your question, Kiran Kumar. All right, Bishan, thank you. Thank you for joining us in this webinar and giving our investors a good insight about the company. And
Sure.
thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I know it was a long weekend, and thank you for taking the time and coming here. All right, perfect. Have a good day, guys, and happy
Perfect. Thank
weekend.
you. Thank you. Bye. Take care. Thank you, Vishnu, for hosting this.
Thanks, Bishan. All right.